things that's really interesting about Webb is that, first of all, he became a journalist. He was well educated. He was from a good family. He came from a good background, but he also was political. He prided himself as being an American liberal. That's what he calls himself. I am an American liberal. And he was a Democrat. And he is one of the builders of the Democratic Party. He is one of the people that helped construct the Democratic Party. And that's why Cleveland sent him as ambassador to the Philippines in 1888, where he became a Muslim. But one of the things that really impresses me about Webb is the fact that he knew in America that Americans are not monolithic. He knew that they don't all hate Islam. He knew that some of them are enemies, and some of them are friends, and some of them are neutral. And so therefore, in all of his work, he always looked for allies. And I remember today when Farhan Sayyid spoke that one of the women in the back addressed that issue of finding alliances, finding people who are sympathetic. Webb was very attuned to that. He knew that in American society there were many people who would stand by him, who would support him. And he cultivated those people. And he supported them, and they supported him, like Unitarians, like Theosophists, and even Buddhists in America at that time. He cultivated a relationship with them because he knew that in order to succeed in America, he would do that. And Webb saw that his enemy in the United States, and these are the people that you find Webb, who is this great liberal, ceasing to be extremely liberal, those were what today we would call the Christian right. Because Webb was very conscious of the fact that in the Protestant community, there were people that were very, very racist, bigoted, and obscurantist. And Webb never got off their case. He is the father of the American Islamic press. And his newspapers, The Muslim World, I found half of them. Unfortunately, I didn't find them all, but we have to look for them. We have to find them. They are beautiful newspapers, and they are extremely well done, with poems from Victor Hugo and poems from American poetesses and poets, with excellent articles and pictures of Indian mosques and commentaries on the architecture. Webb knew how to speak to the American people. And when it came to issues like women, he rarely spoke for himself. He had women speak. He had women speak. He would get women to speak, like Teresa Ville and Esmeralda Cervantes and others. These are women who'd been to the Muslim world, who traveled there. So he understood that's much more effective than him as a man talking about women. Let women talk about women. So he did that. And his papers are very credible. But in his papers, he has lots of allies. And in the United States, there were people that were bitterly opposed to Webb. Those are the missionaries and what we today call the Christian right. But in the United States, there were lots of other Christians who stood behind him. And he supported them, and they supported him. Another thing, too, Webb believed that it wasn't his job to convert Americans. So he wasn't out to convert people. He had a faith in the American people. And his belief, as he says many times, is that by and large, the American people are a fair-minded people. All they need is to hear the truth. All they need is to see the message. And the message will speak for itself. And for that reason, his essential purpose in everything that he did was to try to get the message across to the American people of what Islam teaches and who the Prophet was, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one of the things that I can say about Webb, without qualification, is that this is a person who knew the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and loved the Prophet. And when you hear Webb speak about the Prophet Muhammad, it almost brings tears to your eyes. It's as if he knew him. He loved the biography of the Prophet. His speeches, when he would speak about the Prophet, are extremely impressive. And as I told you, he has a poem in one of his issues, which is about the death of the prophet, which is a poem written by Victor Hugo. Now, who knew that Victor Hugo had written a poem about the death of the prophet? And this poem is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely. It has a few historical mistakes in it about Zayd and other details of the prophetic biography, but it is an absolutely beautiful poem. And again, it's part of the culture of Webb, the editor, the newspaper man. He knew Mark Twain, by the way. He knew Eugene Field, one of the greatest journalists in American history, worked with Eugene Field. Is that he knew what to bring to the American people. So it's really a great legacy. And in his work in New York City and Manhattan, Webb was concerned not just with converts. He got converts, by the way. He had converts around him. And again, Akbar Muhammed, who's one of the sons of Elijah Muhammad, and Akbar Muhammad is a great person with a great history, who stood by Malcolm X, by the way. Akbar Muhammad has written a little bit on Muhammad Webb, and he believes there is a continuity after Webb of people that came after him. In the 1940s, there was a conference on Webb in New York City by the Webb Memorial Society, in which an American Muslim, Nadira, Florence Ives Osman, and Emery, Dr. Tunis and Emery, who are all Muslim Americans, spoke about Webb. So there is some kind of, his movement didn't just die with him, but we don't know very much about what happened after that. But one of the interesting things about it is the fact that Webb welcomed the convert, but he put the convert in circles. He had at least 6 circles. He had 2 circles in Brooklyn, 1 circle in Manhattan, 1 circle in Washington, D.C., and the man who led that circle went to Medina and visited Mecca and Medina, and he had another circle in San Francisco. The circles are only 5 people, so they're not big, but the circle will be made up of a convert or 2 converts and then sympathizers. So this is another aspect of Webb which I think is very important. Again, he sees that there are a lot of people in the society that may not want to embrace Islam and may not be able to embrace Islam. In fact, he writes in his papers that many people have written to him and told him that they love Islamic theology, the oneness of God, like Dr. Lang said. Who rejects that? The basic theology of Islam, you can hardly find anyone who rejects that. It's a beautiful teaching. It's a natural religion. So many people say they love the theology of Islam, but they are afraid to become Muslims because of the prejudice in the society. So people like that, Webb just say, never mind, come. And so in the circles, they would have sympathizers, they would have converts, and they study. They study books about the Prophet, they study books about religion, they read, they talk, they discuss. They also want to cultivate each other morally, to give each other moral support. All these things in Webb, I think, are really remarkable